Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to share our journey and how it went. We adopted 2 embryos. We had 2 frozen embryos transferred that were donated in the Czech Republic. I went to a clinic there and I want to share everything about it with you. Video I shared my entire story. If you have not watched it yet, I highly recommend watching it. I am 46 years old currently. My birthday was in May. Now it's August, so I'm kind of in the middle of my 47th year of life, and we have decided to continue growing our family as long as we can. I don't know, maybe there's going to be no more babies, maybe there's going to be 1 more baby, maybe there's going to be 2 more babies. We don't know yet. Today I'm going to share our journey. So my cycle in June began just the regular way, but after a failed cycle, well, it wasn't technically a failed cycle. I had tried 1 cycle before that to use estradiol. So I was on estradiol pills, and the clinic told me you're not going to ovulate when you're on those pills. Well, but I sure did. I guess my body just has strong ovulation. I've always ovulated. I've never missed. Maybe I've had a cycle that was just a little bit longer, but I've never missed my ovulation. So I did ovulate, so we had to cancel that cycle. And so I decided, after doing lots of research, and I have done lots of research, if you're planning on having a frozen embryo transfer, I highly recommend doing your research, and I'm going to share more on this channel about everything that I learned, because I think you can't just do the standard protocol for every single woman, and certainly not every woman is on a 28-day cycle. I'm not. My cycles have gotten shorter in the past couple of years, and they're never like clockwork. Maybe you have that, but there's not a lot of women who actually have an exact 28-day cycle. And I think everyone works differently, and that's why I think your individual parameters should always be considered. So I did lots of research and decided I wanted to do a modified natural cycle. I had never had any problems with my uterine lining. It was always above 8 or 9 millimeters, and so that's perfect. So why should I use estradiol, which really helps you thicken your uterine lining and prepare it? Why should I take that? So I decided to do a modified natural cycle, which meant I was just waiting for day 1, and then I counted from there. I had an ultrasound because I know I have early ovulation. I had an ultrasound done by my doctor here in Germany on day 8 of my cycle. There was a follicle of, I think, 20 millimeters, which is right before it's about to rupture. And we knew I was about to ovulate. Uterine lining was at 10 millimeters, and so my doctor said, well, I would say this is perfect now. So I called my clinic, and they said now to do the HCG trigger shot. So that day I did the HCG trigger shot. What happens when you get that trigger shot? And I gave it to myself. It was okay, no biggie. Within the next couple of days, you're gonna have you're gonna ovulate. They say 24 to 36 hours, maybe plus minus 12 hours or so. So I did the trigger shot, so probably I ovulated 2 days later, and I actually thought, it's like, okay, why don't we just try the natural way at the same time, and that will increase our chances, since now I know I'm ovulating today, and maybe it's just gonna be our biological child, so I don't care what it's gonna be. I just want to open up the door for every chance, for everything that could possibly happen. I said, God, okay, God, we're just gonna, so we did some baby dancing that day that I knew I was gonna ovulate. And then 1 week after the trigger shot, meaning 5 days after ovulation, I went to the clinic in Prague and had my frozen embryo transfer. 2 days after my trigger shot, I started taking progesterone only vaginally. I know in the States they do a lot of this progesterone in oil that you have to give yourself shots every single day. I read the studies and they don't really find a difference between the progesterone in oil and just the vaginal. Some do a combination, but my clinic only wanted me to do it vaginally. That was 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, 200 milligrams. It's kind of nasty. This is TMI here, but there's a lot of this white discharge and it's nasty. You have to wear panty liners, but I didn't care, you know. It's like anything that's going to help my uterus be prepared and have a wonderful, warm, cozy home for the babies. So I went to the Czech Republic and we had 2 frozen embryos transferred, and I'm going to insert footage here of the moment when they transferred it.
Wir sind drin. Können Sie das sehen? Hier. Ja? Loop. Und jetzt gehe ich langsam zurück. Ja? Okay. Schön.
I was so surprised. I walked into that room and there was like tons of women that were before me, you know, and then it was my turn. I laid down. And it literally took 30 seconds. It was weird. She did a short ultrasound. She's like, okay, nice thick lining. It looks good. Ovaries are okay. And then she just inserted the catheter. I didn't feel anything. It was basically like you're going to have a pap smear and, you know, you don't feel really much. They just do something. And I could see on the ultrasound there was the catheter and she's like, oh, now they're in. And I was like, what? Where? It happened so quickly, literally just a few seconds. And then she's like, okay, now lay down for 15 minutes and then you can go home. And it was just kind of crazy. Andrea said like, oh, wow, we're playing God. But I said, no, we're not playing God. We're just trying. But God is the one who decides where life is created. For me, ethically, having a frozen embryo transfer, even of donated embryos, to me it's just a gift. Someone gave me this most precious gift in the world of having an opportunity of having a baby, and that baby is going to be mine. I'm just adopting it because my cells happen to be a little too old. My body is still really in great shape. Just my eggs are just a little old. So I actually went home right afterwards. It's about a 5-hour drive. I drove home right away. I prayed a lot, I meditated a lot, and I was talking to the babies. I was like, okay. And I prayed, it's like, God, please give those babies life, that they will grow. And I went back home. And so I just went about my daily life. I went for walks every day. I normally work out quite heavily every day or moderately. And from that day on, I took it extremely easy. I only went for walks. We have a dog, so I go for walks anyway. And I just, you know, did something to do something for my circulation, but I just took it very easy, went about my day, and then, you know, they say to wait 2 weeks after the transfer to test, but I was, you know, I'm in different groups in Facebook that are just about embryo donation, embryo adoption, and I knew that some women have tested positive even 4, 5, or 6 days after the transfer, because basically you just count, it's a 5-day blastocyst, and then you add the days after the transfer, and then you know how many days past ovulation you are. So 5 days plus 4 days is 9 days DPO, and you could possibly get a positive already. So I started actually testing 9 days after the transfer, which then would be 14 days DPO, which, you know, that is the time when you should have your period or miss your period, which means you should really definitely get either a clear positive or a clear negative. I tested and I was so nervous. I went into the bedroom and we made like a big thing out of it. And I told, you know, our daughter and Andreas, is like, okay, I'm gonna dip the stick and you guys are gonna go in the bathroom. I'm gonna lay down in bed and you're gonna look I explained to my daughter how to read a pregnancy test, even if it's very, very faint. If there's just the slightest line, that means you're pregnant. And well, I think she told me afterwards, she looked at it first and she went to her dad like, I didn't hear that. And then he's so typical. He's not like, yay! He's like, well, that is unmistakable. And I was thinking, I was in my bedroom. I was like, is it negative? Is it negative? I was so pessimistic. I was thinking like, it's not. It's negative. It's negative. Well, and they came and was like, well, that is unmistakably positive. And I was like, no way. And I was like, oh my goodness. I could not believe it. And it was positive. Very, very obviously. I did tests every day thereafter to make sure the line is getting stronger. I took different tests, and I'm going to put some pictures in here, the progression, and it looked so good. I thought like this couldn't possibly just be a chemical. It must be all good. It's getting so strong. So, and I actually started getting symptoms very early on, probably just a week after the transfer. I started getting a little nauseous, and I was thinking, could this be from the progesterone? But that would be weird because I had taken the progesterone 10 days before I started getting nauseous. And so I was like, it couldn't be the progesterone. I asked a friend who had also done a couple of transfers, and I asked her, did you get nauseous from the progesterone? And she said, no, I didn't really have any symptoms. So I thought, I don't know if I could possibly have nausea this early on. But sure enough, it was because I was pregnant. Other than that, my breasts got so, not just tender, they got full and hard and so, like, I could feel the milk, like my breasts to want to prepare for having milk. It was painful, but it was cool because I thought like, okay, this is every day I'm looking for all these symptoms. Sore breasts, very just bigger breasts. I'm looking for the nausea, a little bit of twitching here and there, but my uterus was so relaxed for some reason. And, I have been taking magnesium for months, and I always learned a calm uterus is a good uterus when it comes to being pregnant. So it's a good thing in early pregnancy to have a calm uterus. So everything was fine. I went in for I think 5.5 weeks I went, or 5 weeks or so I went to have the HCG tested, and the first time, I think it was 10 days after the transfer, which then would make it 15 DPOs, just one day after your missed period. It was at 303, and then just, I think 10 days later, it was at 5,000 or so, or 9 days later, I'm not 100% sure anymore. So numbers increasing, high HCG, and that day that I found, of the 5,000 HCG, we did a scan, an ultrasound scan, and so he said, okay, it's in the right place, it's not an ectopic, that's always a danger, it looks good, it's in your uterus, and he measured the gestational sac, it was right on time. We didn't see an embryo or a yolk sac yet, but he said, well, it's too early. We're just going to have to wait. So let's see. A week and a half later, I was 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks. We had another scan, and I was so excited because I was thinking, I have all the symptoms. I am so nauseous. Everything must be perfect because I feel it every single day. My boobs are sore. I'm so nauseous. It's crazy. And I thought, we're going to see a heartbeat, and we're going to get a little picture of the ultrasound. And the next day my mom was coming to visit, and I said, well, this is cool. I'm going to tell my mom because I'm really close to her and I want her to know. I don't want to wait longer. So I went to the scan, and my doctor didn't seem worried. He was just like, at first he was like, well, that is definitely too small. And I was like freaking out. And then he said, after moving the ultrasound around vaginally, he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. I totally had the wrong measuring points last time. I put in the baby size instead of the gestational sac, and then the computer told me whatever, but that was wrong. I should have put the different measurement. So yeah, it has doubled in size. The gestational sac has doubled in size. Well, he did give me a printout and he didn't seem worried or anything. And then I went home and I was thinking, I don't know, that printout, I am not seeing anything except a gestational sac. It looks pretty empty to me. And that really started me worrying. Not just worrying, but I'm very optimistic, but I also know reality. And I was like, at 7 weeks almost, you should totally see a heartbeat. You should at least see like a yolk sac or something. But it was just empty. And he said, well, it might be a pulsation way in the corner over there, but I don't want to push it. That wouldn't be so good. Like he would have to push the wand in. And he said, that's not good. Even, for the baby, that is stressful. It's too close and all. And I said, well, we don't have to do that. We can see it next time. But I went home and I knew something in my gut told me, I don't know, this isn't right. There should be something in there. And so I freaked out. And the next day, my symptoms just got less. My mom came to visit and I told her I'm pregnant. She was so happy, but at the same time I told her that I'm also worried because there's nothing in there and there should be, and I don't feel as much symptoms anymore. And so for a week I hung out and I was just freaking out because I'm like, okay, no symptoms. The symptoms did get more again, but kind of the nausea came back and I was so confused. Well, I went in and had another scan and the gestational sac was still empty and it wasn't growing as much anymore. So right now I should be 9 weeks, but there's no embryo in the gestational sac. My body still thinks it's pregnant. This is called a blighted ovum. It's basically the placenta and the gestational sac. They keep growing for a while, which is why you feel so pregnant. Everything feels like you're pregnant because the hormone level is there. The HCG even still rises for a while until it drops, and then your body realizes it's not pregnant anymore. My symptoms are getting a little bit less, but I have been so nauseous this past week. It was just crazy. So right now I'm waiting for a miscarriage to happen. I'm hoping it'll happen just naturally, but I will make another video about what's going to happen with that. I've had one natural miscarriage at 7 weeks. I just was at home and I waited it out and it was like a strong period, but now I'm 9 weeks and 9 weeks today, and then every day that progresses, it's gonna be one day more. And I have had no spotting whatsoever. I feel yesterday and today I'm a little less nauseous, but I can't say that I'm not nauseous. And it's kind of crazy to me. So I'm waiting and I will absolutely give you an update on what's going to happen. And our plan is as soon as my cycle starts back up, we're totally going to try it again as soon as it is possible. I don't know when. Hopefully it's not going to take more than 2-3 months maybe for it to get back into the swing. I have also read some studies that suggest that after pregnancy, your chances of getting pregnant again are actually increased. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Thank you so much for hanging out. These videos are kind of long. They're not always going to be this long. I just wanted to share my entire story for me to look back on and just share any information. If you want to follow along our journey, there's going to be more to happen. I'm going to document it. I'm going to vlog when we do our next transfer, anything that's going to happen that's relevant. I'm not going to make videos on a specific day. I'm just going to make videos whenever there's something new happening, and I'm going to give you all the updates. Thank you for hanging out. Have a most blessed week, and just remember that children are a blessing from the Lord.